Good morning, my awesome Niners. Right, buddies, that was it for our unit on standard form. So now we get to move swiftly on to our new unit, which is an algebra unit. So I hope that you guys will really like that. Algebra is probably my favorite kind of topics to do in maths, because I like how tricky it gets, and I like that you can feel quite clever when you get them figured out. And that's one of the really good things about maths, is you always feel good when you get it all figured out. So, my buddies, to start with, our topic is going to be called change of subject, but before we start it, I need to really see those skills that go all the way back to year 7 and definitely though back to year 8 of solving equations, okay? So I want to see you guys using the balance method. Now, here's what we're going to do. It's a starter, and even though you're online, this is my first ever starter that I've done with anybody when they've been doing online learning, but I still think it's quite worthwhile and quite worth doing. So here's what I'm going to show you. I'm going to do this first one with you, then I'm going to give you a hint, then I'm going to race along behind you trying to catch up. Okie doke, my buddies? So here we go. I want you just to say what A is, but I want you to say it without actually guessing what A is. So you don't be like, okay, so 4 lots of 10 would be 40, take 16. Oh, that's not quite right. I don't want any kind of mental maths like that. I want to do the actual way of solving equations, which you guys remember. Okay, now here's how it goes, buddies. We want to know what A is, yeah? Well, if you want to know what A is, here's what you do. You say A is here, and it's touching a 4. 4 is like its mate, okay? You want it to be touching the 4. It's that they're mates, right? So what you do is you keep them together like this. So all the way back to year 8, this skill. And now you've got your 4 and your A. They're all kind of grouped off. So who doesn't belong? What doesn't belong on the left-hand side if we're trying to eventually get A by itself? Well, that's right. The minus 16, that's right. So how do you get rid of a minus 16? What is the opposite? What is the inverse operation to take 16? Well, plus 16. That's it. So what are we left with on the left-hand side now, my buddies? Well, you're left with 4A, because it was what was in the box. It's what we protected. What are we left with on the right? Well, it's now in the minus 16 and the plus 16, well, they cancel each other out, right? Because minus 16 plus 16 actually equals 0. Cool. On the right-hand side, it's just 20 plus 16, so let's just cut to the chase and call that 36. Cool. That's step 1 done. It's like a brand new question now. So if you have 4 equals 36, we're after the A, but now it's still with its mate, the 4, but now it's time for the 4 to go home. So what are you going to do? Well, when something's touching, what's the operation there? If it's 4 A's, it's like 4 lots of A, right? Or 4 times A. So what's the opposite of 4 times A? Or what's the opposite of timesing by 4? Well, dividing by 4. Divide 4, divide 4. You get to do the wonderful sound, whoosh, whoosh, as you cancel those out, because times 4. And then divide by 4 is actually the same as doing nothing at all, because they cancel each other out. It's the same as timesing by 1, because 4 goes into 4 once, and 4 goes into 4 once. But you just can think of it as they cancel each other out. And on the right-hand side, you're just left with 36 divided by 4, which goes in nicely. It's 9. Sometimes those answers, my buddies, are going to be fractions, sometimes they're mixed numbers, and sometimes they're whole numbers. Cool. So here's what I want you to do. You've seen me do one of them. I'm going to go really quick through these when I take them up, but I want to see if you guys can do all of the remaining ones that are on the screen. I think you'll be fine here, and here, and here, and I think these are going to be quite hard, the bottom 2 challenge ones. They're one of the harder year 8 ones. And in order to get those, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put all the letters together on one side and all of the numbers together on the other. So are you guys ready? Go. Cool beans, and you're back. Let's see how you've done. So you should have done plus 7, so you'd be left with 3b equals, oh, what's that? 4 off 7, 3, 33, which means that divide both sides by 3 over 3 over 3. B is 11, like a boss. This one here, you're going to go minus 5, so you're going to be left with 7c equals, and this is 19. Now this time it doesn't go, but we're pros, we don't care. Over 7, whoosh, whoosh. And that means that C is 19 over 7, which if you were an A-level student would be full marks. But when you're a GCSE student, like what you guys are going to be soon, here's what we do. We figure out it is a mixed number. 7's into 19, well, it goes 2 full times, bringing us to 14. That leaves 5 over to get to 19, so it's 2 and 5/7. This one here, I'm not sure if anyone will have sussed it, but what I would have done first is times out the brackets. Some of you probably divided both sides by 4 first. Both things are okay, but I'm going to times out the bracket. 4x take 8 equals 16, plus 8 to both sides, plus 8 plus 8. 4x is 24. Divide both sides by 4 over 4 over 4. Make the amazing sound, cancelling them out. And that means then, my buddies, x is 24 divided by 4, which actually does go 6 times. Like a beast. Okay, now here's where it gets a little bit trickier, though, is these ones. Okay, now when you're in year 7, I gave you guys a way of remembering this, and it was always like letters left, numbers right. So I would always go l, and r, and like numbers right, letters left, l. I used to kind of make you guys memorize that. But actually, when you got to year 8, I showed you that you could put them on whatever side you want. And now that you're in year 9, all I'm fussed about is that you can solve them. So let's do it. We have 4x on this side, and a 5, and a 2x on this side, and a 20. Now, I want my x's to be positive, so I'm going to choose to move the minus 2x over first. Minus 2x, minus 2x. Okay? So I'm going to get the letters off of the left-hand side, and I'm going to have them on the right-hand side. Which means I don't want any numbers to be on the left-hand side. I've already decided for letters on the left, which means I need my numbers on the right. So the plus 5's in the wrong spot because it's a number and it doesn't belong on the left, it belongs on the right. So opposite of plus 5 is take 5, and you do the same to both. Cool? So we took 2 steps out of this thing. We've really tidied it quickly. 4x take 2x then, it's just 2x. 5 take away 5 is nothing, so that's all that there is on this side. 2x take away 2x is nothing, so that's good, that's gone. And 20 take away 5 is 15. So 2x equals 15. Some of you will already have written down x equals 7.5. That's fine, no problem. If you want to make sure you always get it, do this. Divide both sides by 2. And then that means that x is equal to 15 over 2. 2 goes into 15 7 times, bringing us to 14. So there's 1 left, and that's your final answer. 7.5, also cool. Right, and in the last one, I would have done the same but opposite. So see how the 3 is bigger? I'm going to, in terms of the x's, I'm going to move the 2 to be with the 3. So if you move the 2 to be with the 3, here we go. Take 2x, and now the letters are on the right this time, which means if I move the letters to be on this side, if that's going to be my letter side, this is going to be my number side over here. And here we go. The minus 40 doesn't belong then, so plus 40. Plus 40, plus 40. And here's what we've got. On this side then, you have minus 8 plus 40, which is 32. On this side, you have 3x take 2x, which is 1x. And then minus 40 plus 40 is that, which is actually the final answer already. I'm just going to put the x to the left, though, because I like having x's on the left. And that's that. So, that is everything you know about solving from year 8, my buddies. So I hope that it was okay. Was it okay? Good. Okay. So here is what we're going to do. Brand new title, and we're not going to go too far today, but we're going to do really good with it. The new title then, my buddies, is Changing the Subject. Now, to start with, you got to know what the subject is. When you're talking about an equation, the subject of the equation is whatever letter is off on its own, okay? So in this equation, 2y is the subject, which is a weird subject to have, but on most equations, it'd be like this, where b is the subject. I'm just going to get rid of that box. In this one, b is quite clearly the subject, yeah, because it's like b equals. So our goal then is going to be this. 2y equals 3x plus 4. I want x to be the subject. So here's what you do. All you got to do is get the x by itself on one of the 2 sides. Now, it will become really patterny and not too bad for you really shortly. So here we go. First step, we're after x, okay? The first step is saying, where is it? Well, there it is. It's with the 3. See what I mean? It's here with the 3. So what are you going to do then, buddies? Well, protect it. We're going to want to keep it on its own. Cool. So what doesn't belong if we want that side to only have an x on it? Well, the first thing that doesn't belong is the minus 4. So we're going to plus 4 to both sides. Plus 4 plus 4. Now, here's why it's different to what you've just done. You can't actually add a 4 to a 2y, can you? No, because they're not like terms. They don't have exactly the same letter. So what we're going to do is we're going to just have to rewrite it with algebra, which in theory is actually a bit easier. So this side just becomes 2y plus 4. Got me, buddies? Because we couldn't add them together. We just had to write them beside one another. This side here, the 3x is there, safe, protected in the box, and the minus 4 and the plus 4 have gone. Now here we go. Final answer now. To get x on its own, what are we going to do? It's with its mate, the 3, but it's time for the 3 to go home. Well, you divide by 3. Because it was times by 3, we'll divide by 3. You get to make your sick noise and cancel them out just like that. And then you've got the final answer. So I'm going to write the x on the left though, but that's no big deal. X, because the 3's went away, and then just recopy it. 2y plus 4 over 3. The only difference between this and what we did a moment ago is we have letters in our answer. That's the only difference between change of subject and regular equation solving. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. For B, for this one, the first step is to times out the bracket. So here's what you should do. Times out the bracket, rearrange it, make A the subject. Are you ready? Go. Okay, and you're back. Let's see how you did. So I would have times out the bracket first. 5a take 35. That would have been my first step. My second step, I'm going to switch colors to green. My second step would have been this. Where's the a? Because I'm trying to make a the subject. It's here, but it's with its matey, the 5, because they're times on. Minus 35 then doesn't belong. What's the opposite of minus 35? Well, plus 35 to both sides to keep it fair. Now, b plus 35 is what's on the left. But we can't actually do that. It's not like 35b or anything like that. We have to just keep it separate as its own kind of algebra because they don't go together. They're not like terms. So on the right hand side, you're just left with 5a. Now what do I have to do to get a by itself? Well, same as before. The 5 is attached as its friend. It's times on. But we need to get rid of it now. Divide both sides by 5. Make the sound. And that leaves you with a equals b plus 35 all over 5. Now there's a couple ways of writing that answer, but this way is the best way. So I hope that you got your answers just like that, and I hope that you're getting the hang of it. You could have left the a on the right if you preferred, but usually mathematicians like to leave the letter on the left. But it's no big deal, one way or the other. I'd mark you right, even if you put it on either side. Cool? Okay. Now, 2 more for you to try. I'm not going to give any hints. I just want to see if you can do it. So you ready? Make x the subject in this, make d the subject in that. Go. Okie doke, and you are back. Let's see. I'm just going to go really quick here. Minus 3, minus 3. On the left, you're going to get y minus 3 equals, and on the right, 5x. Divide both sides by 5 to make the x be on its own. Cancel, cancel. Leaving you with x equals y take 3 over 5. I hope you got that. Now the next one as well, same deal. We've got to get d. d is there with its mate the 10. So minus 3 doesn't belong, so plus 3, plus 3. Can't simplify the left-hand side, so c plus 3. The other side, though, 10d still, because it doesn't, it's protected in the box. The minus 3 and the plus 3 go. Divide both sides by 10, over 10, over 10. d, my lovelies, is c plus 3 over 10. So I hope that you've got your head around that. Those are still year 8 ones, but they are starting to escalate. So here we go, let's escalate. On to year 9 ones. E equals mc squared, and we're after c. Now, it's a little bit trickier this time, because we've got the squared in. It's going to make it a bit funny, but not too funny for you. You guys are going to get it. So it's different this time because actually, when you're solving these, now this confuses people, so I don't often say it, but you guys are my lovely 9, so I'll tell you, but I don't want it to confuse you, so the minute you feel confused, please just zone out of this. I've got a better way of explaining it. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to have to undo you're going to be dividing by m first. When you're solving equations, you actually go backwards up BIDMAS. So because the squared would happen first, it's going to happen last when you undo it. Now, that muddles people, so actually I already regret saying anything at all about reversing BIDMAS, but it's reversing BIDMAS. Maybe just have a think in the back of your head as to why that might be, but I'm going to bin that whole talk now. Okay, you ready? here's what we're going to do. E equals mc squared, which is Einstein's really famous formula. So there you go. And we want c to be the subject. Now c is here, but it's squared. So essentially, it does have a mate. The m is still its mate, but it's already time for the mate to go home, okay? Because we don't have any adding or subtracting. So here's what we're going to do. Start off by dividing both sides by m. Because if you divide both sides by m, then you're going to get to go whoosh, whoosh. And that's just going to leave the c squared on its own. So we're going to be left with e over m equals c squared. Now it was really important that we didn't square root first because we needed to get the m moved over. Before you can mess about with powers, you've got to get the thingy all by itself that you're solving for. So c squared is now on its own. So here's your big question. You just need to tell me the inverse operation, my buddies. What is the opposite of squared? What's the opposite of squaring something? If 5 squared is 25, how could I turn 25 back into 5? Well, if you said square root, you're dead right. What we're going to do is we're going to square root both sides. And that means the final answer here is going to be this. It's going to, well, the square root will cancel the square on the c, so you're going to be left with equals c here, and it'll be a big tall square root that covers the whole fraction of e over m. So c equals the square root of e over m. And that's what we've got. That's the final answer here. So the only extra step that I've introduced is that sometimes there's powers and you need to kind of sort them out at the end if they're on the thing that you're working out, okay? If they're on the thing that you're working out. Cool, buddies. Final question of the day is this one. And it's a really, really tricky one, but I think that you might be able to get it. I'm not going to... Okay, so don't pause and try it all the way through, but pause for a moment and think what you'd do first. Okay, what did you think we would do first? We want to get a. We want to get a, which is here in the middle with its mate, the 2. But there's also a plus b, but there's also like a big square root over everything, which you can kind of think of as it's like a big roof that's stopping anything from moving on this side. Can you see that everything is like trapped underneath this square root? Well, what would be the first step then? The first step is to get rid of the square root so we can actually start moving stuff about. You got me, my buddies. I want to actually move things. I can't move them. I can't do a minus b because there's like a roof over it. It's like a house with a roof over it. We can't do minus b yet because there's a roof over it. So how do you get rid of square root? That's it, buddies. You square. You square both sides. So you'll be left with t squared is equal to, now the square root's gone because you've done the opposite to it, and it's just 2a plus b. Cool. At this stage, I reckon it's a normal one for you. So we want to get the a, it's there, it's with its mate the 2, but there's a plus b, so get rid of that, minus b, t squared, minus b, equals 2a, like a boss. And then the final thing you gotta do is, what do you do to both sides to get the a on its own? Well, divide by 2, of course, the whole of both sides. Rewrite it with a first. A equals t squared minus b all over 2, like an absolute boss. Now, we're going to do a lot of practice on this, buddies, so if you're not all the way sure yet, if you're a bit shaky, don't worry, we're going to get lots of chance to get really, really good at it, but I just needed to get you guys started, really. That's what we've just done. So here's what I'm going to get you to do for the whole rest of the lesson. I've got this sheet here that you can see, changing the subject sheet, which is going to be attached for you on Show My Homework. I like the way, this isn't my sheet, but I like the way the teacher's done this is okay, actually. I don't mind the way she's written it out. You should try to write it out my way, potentially, because it's a bit maybe easier the way I've shown you. But yeah, there's all these questions on it. All I want you to do is have a go, try to answer these questions. You might even be able to squeeze the answers in this gap, but if not, just do it on your classwork. And let's see what you got, my buddies. Let's see if you can figure out how to rearrange the equations. I'm going to also attach for you the answers. Do your very best not to look at the answers until you've already tried a question, though, okay? So you should be using them only just as answers, not as like a means to copy, because if you copy them, you won't learn it. So I got to make sure that you're only using them as answers, but you do need to know the answers, otherwise you won't know if you're getting them right or wrong. Cool beans, buddies. So when you're all done, take a photo for me, whack it on to show my homework for me, my buddies. And that's it from me. So see you next time. Bye, buddies!